Good morning. How's everybody today? Everybody looks smiling and happy. Where were you guys last Sunday? Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Church, a beacon of progressive religious thought in the South Bay. My name is Gary Hart, and I'm your worship associate today. We are an intentionally welcoming community to all race, creeds, sexual orientations, and gender identities, and we are committed to being environmentally active. And this morning we are committed to having several people do announcements. Barbara Marriott, would you come up first? Did you just do one, Barbara? Is that what you just did one? Oh, okay. All right, we'd like to invite Lisa Seitz up now for an announcement. If we start seeming like we know what we're doing, that's going to break a grand tradition. I also want to announce Drum, California. That's the Diverse Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries for Black Indigenous People of Color. There'll be a quiz later. They're having a strategic planning and summer retreat on Saturday, August 17th in the First Unitarian Church of Oakland. So if you'd like to go up and talk to those folks, they'd like to have you. Now it's time for our chalice lighting. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. May our many sparks meet and merge into communion of heart and soul. Deep calls unto deep. Joy calls unto joy. Light calls unto light. Let the kindling of this flame rekindle us in the inner light of love, of peace, and of hope. And you might have noticed, Pastor Joshua is here this morning.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be back as your guest preacher. I understand there's some exciting news that you guys are having a new preacher come September 1st. And I've heard really good things about him, so that's exciting too. For our opening words this morning are from Helen Keller. Everything has its wonders, even darkness, even silence, and I learn, whatever state I may be in, therein to be content. Please stand in body or spirit for our opening hymn number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
be seated, and we'll welcome Kara for our story for all ages. Should I invite the kids up, or you do that? Yeah. If there's any kids who want to come sit here on the carpet.
Yeah,
I think there's one coming.
okay. Is there anyone that wants to sit on the rug? Okay, it's working. I have a story to read you about somebody who I did not know was a Unitarian. It was a hot, muggy morning. Christopher was not sure he really wanted to be out riding in a competition. Maybe it would be nicer to take the kids sailing today, where there would be a cool breeze. Well, he thought, I'm a lucky man to be able to choose between riding and sailing. In fact, plenty of people watching Christopher that day thought the same thing. He was many people's idea of a superhero. He was the actor who played Superman in the movies, and in real life, he fit the part. Handsome, strong, always striving toward a goal, chasing his best time or learning a new skill. And then, in an instant, everything changed. His horse, Eastern Express, balked at a jump, sending Christopher crashing to the ground. When he woke up in the hospital, Christopher couldn't move his hands or his feet. He couldn't even breathe without the help of a machine. Although doctors could repair his neck, they could not fix the injury to his spinal cord. Now Christopher's brain was unable to communicate with most of his body. There was no way for him to move any part of his body below his head. Despair washed over Christopher. If he could not do anything, could not be useful to anyone, why not put him out of his misery like they did with horses that were injured too badly to walk again? Maybe, he said to his wife, Dana, we should let me go. But you're still you, she replied, and I love you. Of course, Christopher had never been able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, but he had been a tremendous athlete. He had always liked a goal, a challenge, something to work for. Before his accident, Christopher's challenges involved acting, directing, and sports. Now his challenges were different. Now it took all his strength and determination to sit up in a wheelchair and steer it by puffing on a straw. His heart ached with all he had lost. He might never again be able to hug his wife and sons or ride a horse or sail, but he realized he still had a lot, the love of his family and the money and fame from his career. Christopher decided to use everything he still had to work for a new goal. As always, Christopher Reeve dreamed big. He hoped there might be a cure for spinal cord injuries, not just for himself, but also for thousands of others whose lives had changed when their backs and necks were broken. He and his wife set up the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. They asked people for money to help pay scientists to research a cure. Then Dana realized how lucky they were to be able to afford to put a ramp in their home and a big van that could fit Christopher's wheelchair. So they collected money to help pay for ramps and other helpful things so more people with spinal cord injuries could also have them. Christopher realized that even though he could no longer use his arms and legs, he had a power that many people do not. He was famous. People thought of him as Superman. Now he could really be a hero, not by flying through the air to rescue people, but by speaking up. Because he was famous, people would pay attention. They would listen, and they would want to help. It was not easy. Christopher didn't want people to feel sorry for him, but he knew this was a special chance to use the power he had and make the world a better place. He asked Congress to support stem cell research that might lead to a cure for spinal cord injuries. He asked groups of people to get involved and donate money. He talked with others who had experienced injuries like his. He even spoke on television to millions of people at the Academy Awards, showing everyone that, although his abilities had changed, His heart and his soul were strong and capable. A writer for Reader's Digest magazine interviewed Christopher Reeve near the end of his life in 2004 and asked him why he had joined a Unitarian church. He answered, "It gives me a moral compass. I often refer to Abe Lincoln, who said, 'When I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad. And that is my religion.' I think we all have a little voice inside us that will guide us. It may be God, I don't know. But I think if we shut out all the noise and clutter from our lives and listen to that voice, it will tell us the right thing to do." Christopher Reeve showed what a real-life hero is, a person who listens to the voice inside them and acts when that voice tells them the right thing to do. The end.
Let's sing out our child.
To every face, may the kindness which we learn light our hearts till we return.
Good singing. Now it's time for Candles of Joy and Sorrow. Ours is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. We take this moment to reflect on our joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. If you would like, you may come forward and light a candle in silence or with a brief verbal expression of a special joy or sorrow.
his final candle for all the unspoken joys and sorrows.
As we keep in mind these joys and sorrows throughout our day, I'd like to offer a way to find sacredness in each moment, to bring each moment into clarity and to find the wonder in each moment. That's what I'm going to be talking about later. So the meditation today is a little bit of a meditation on something very simple, something very mundane. I brought this paperclip. And I'd like us all just to meditate a little bit on this paperclip. Just be mindful of it. Just like something that we don't usually consider in our day-to-day life, something we take for granted. If you really focus on it, you realize how important and how sacred every little thing is. So I'd ask you to focus on the paperclip and notice some things about it. You probably can't see it from up here, but you know what it looks like. And it has these curves, these very elegant curves, like mathematically elegant curves in each and every one. And it has a shiny exterior that's really, really elegant and beautiful in its simplicity, if you think about it. What's more, consider that there are 11 billion paperclips used every year. That's the statistic I read. That's pretty awesome. And now these type of paperclips are mostly manufactured in the United States, but they are all made of steel that comes from raw iron that is mined in China and in Brazil and in Australia and in Russia and the Ukraine, both, to make this, connecting cultures and nations. And paperclips, what do they hold? They hold everything from our elementary school homework, which is so important that we count on to educate our precious children, to documents that may outline tactics and solutions on how the world might be more, might prevent environmental disaster. And consider that someone who might have changed the trajectory of civil rights 200 years ago likely also used a device similar to this to hold their papers. As you go through your day, I ask that you continue to consider everything mindfully and be aware of all that is truly wondrous around you that we often overlook. Thank you, Robin. That's beautiful. And now a short reading. Oh, that was cool reading. A short reading. This is from a rabbi named Karen Breutman, who is at the Martha's Vineyard Hebrew Center in Massachusetts. And she wrote, "One of the great insights of Einsteinian physics is that time is the fourth dimension. We know that. And one of the ancient insights of Jewish and other religious traditions is that time has a sacred dimension as well. In ordinary or secular time, one moment seems to be just like the next. But in Judaism, for instance, there are certain times that stand out. Times when the past and the present and the future all seem to meet. These are holy times, or as Marilyn Robinson wrote in the book Gilead, these are the times of the eternal breaking into the temporal. The first mitzvah or commandment of the Israelites in the Torah is about making time holy. It says in the book of Exodus, "This month shall mark for you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the months of the year for you." For you, the sages teach, meaning it is us, it is you, human beings, who have the power to make time holy, to be mindful of each moment and everything. You set the calendar. You can live according to the dings and dongs of your telephone. No word, I'm sorry, I called her out, which is fine. I've sat in audiences many times and my phone has rang. You are not alone. Or according to the flow of sacred and ordinary time. Traditionally, the beginning of the Jewish month has to be declared by witnesses who see the new moon. That's how it's done. It doesn't just happen. We have to commit. Those moments, whether they mark passages in our lives or mark the week with the Sabbath or mark the years with the holidays, are made by our attention to them. And they're also made in community. When we gather together at our appointed times like we're doing now with a full heart and full awareness, we can experience this eternal breaking in on the temporal. Now we'll do our centering hymn as we consider that, number 396, "I Know This Rose Will Open."
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will be burned away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will be burned away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will be burned away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
Thank you again, Robin and Shayna. Yes. Yay. So has anyone ever experienced something that might be compared to like the spinning of a whirling dervish, that energy? Or experienced something so deep that you achieve a hyper-conscious state of mind, unencumbered by distraction? Have you ever experienced something like that? Have you ever entered some sort of euphoric, mind-altering trance where you might begin speaking in tongues, disassociated from the reality around you? Have you ever witnessed something like a faith healer laying hands on a fatally ill individual that forever transformed your relationship to your own gift of life? I would imagine most people here would say probably not. those types of experiences. Maybe close, maybe similar things, probably not those types of experiences. These are what some might consider traditional religious experiences. And in the West, at least, religious experience is most often identified in this way as connected to specific dogma or something Eurocentric or something ecclesiastical. But let me ask you something else. Another set of questions. Have you ever had a runner's high where you enter into a hyperconscious state, unencumbered by distraction? Have you ever had an experience of such profound beauty as it might have been standing directly beneath Michelangelo's fresco on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel as the paint dried, or hearing Sarah Vaughan sing Misty live, where you left that moment and became hyper-focused? Oh, where you left the moment and entered the moment you were experiencing, became hyper-focused, completely disassociated from the reality around you. Have you ever experienced that type of beauty? Does the story of the creation of stars, captured by the images from the Webb telescope, cause you to reconsider your own relationship to the universe? Have you ever witnessed the death of a loved one or the birth of a child, forever transforming your relationship to your own gift of life and how you live it? I would guess most people here are lucky enough to answer yes to at least one or a few of this set of questions. And I argue that these are also religious experiences. So what makes a religious experience a religious experience? Might we attempt breaking it down to some universal fundamentals in order to arrive at something on which most of us can agree? I'm not so sure we can do that, since the primary defining characteristic must or should be that it shouldn't and can't be concretely defined at all. It is an experience personal to each individual. And until you come through experiences like that, until you come through something you can claim as a transformative religious experience, there's truly no way to really comprehend it or define it. Even if, for instance, the experience of multiple people is identical in outward condition, each interpretation of that experience will be unique to its professor. I use the term religious experience to facilitate a common understanding, but what I'm talking about does not require, obviously, the label religious. As I said, it defies classification. I contend that everyone, including those who identify as religious or have no belief in the supernatural, can have the equivalent of a religious experience. What qualities then are shared by different scenarios like what I just described, including the reported outcomes that might justify this contention that everyone can have one? Well, the first is this idea, as I said, of detaching from the realities of the moment, allowing this hyper-focus. Detaching is the wrong word, actually, because what I'm actually referring to, you may have all felt this, is being more connected in that moment to a singular reality, a hyper-awareness, actually, of whatever one is experiencing in that moment, causing other realities to fade. It is the act, essentially, of being intensely mindful, thoughtful, or what some might call intensely spiritual. The philosopher Robert C. Solomon wrote, "If spirituality means anything, it means thoughtfulness." thoughts about the meaning of life, and the profound feelings that such thoughts engender. I shared some words at my ordination a couple years ago about one of my practices of mindfulness and this experiment I did called the butterfly experiment. Much like we were mindful of the paperclip, I took a time and I intentionally set the image of the butterfly as my object of mindfulness, just very mindful and thoughtful. And before long, I realized I was actually encountering butterflies everywhere that I hadn't noticed before. Images of butterflies, real butterflies, everywhere. And after that experiment, I began witnessing more meaningful things that have always been present, but more often than not, had gone completely unnoticed. So religious experience ingredient number one, mindfulness. Now, the next ingredient, for many theological recipes for religious experience, that truly does add that elusive but essential metaphysical umami, is awe. Awe about what you are mindful of. Wonder at what you are noticing. The Romanian historian of religion, Mircea Eliade, argued that experiences of awe were an ancient attribute of human beings. In other words, the beginning of an experience of sacredness. That's what he said. Beginning of awe was at the beginning of an experience of sacredness, which was universal and which actually predated any particular form of religious belief known today. So what is often referred to as religious experience actually came before religion itself, according to Eliade. The positive psychology coach, Jane Farnham, writes that awe is a pro-social emotion. By encouraging us to be less preoccupied with ourselves, to get out of our own heads and out of our own egos, she says, awe motivates us to do things that enhance the greater good. And what's more, she writes, that you don't need to go to extraordinary lengths or travel great distances or see famous paintings or whatever to experience the awe that is available to you. Which leads to another essential quality of religious experience. It is not just the experience of awe, but the awareness of awe. Awareness that you are experiencing it. Farnham continues, experimentation and awareness can afford you with virtually limitless opportunities to reap the benefits of awe in your own life. So the necessary ingredients of religious experience actually support each other. They mix together well. Mindfulness plus awe equals mindfulness of awe. And what's more, any experience, whether positive or negative, can become full of wonder. Wonderful, not awful. Wonderful. I guess awful too. Even the most awful experiences, if recognized as full of that thing, as recognized as full of awe or full of wonder, even the worst experiences can change us in positive ways because awe utilizes the human imagination and capacity for creativity and wonder. So an experience can incorporate fear or ecstasy or anger or love or any number of emotions. But if we are mindful of awe, it can alter the human spirit from apathy to concern. And that can lead to transformative meaning making. And this is basically this idea is the foundation of what's called process theology, which states religious experiences activate a deeper consideration of something resulting in a transformation of the experiencer on some emotional or psychological or physiological level. So one thing we can always count on is change. And experiences of awe change us in often unsolicited, impromptu, transformative, and even radical ways. The theologian John Dewey also defines religious experience by its transformation that it causes, or the change it produces. When an experience produces, he writes, a better, deeper, and enduring adjustment in life, it can be called religious in nature. So if change is life's only true constant, and religious experiences produce change, transformative change, and religions themselves state that the only true constant is God, as many of them state, or whatever is named divine, however you name it. That's the only thing that can be depended upon. Then we can comprehend what Octavia Butler writes, her aphorism that all that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. So accepting, believing in, and even worshiping the divine simply means being open to and accepting of change in this instance. The formula for religious experience then states you must be changed and mindful of the awe that brings about change. Let's try this. Let's replace God in some passages of Scripture with change and see how it fits. Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20 says, "Glory to God, who is able to do far beyond all that we can ask or imagine by his power at work within us." How about glory to change, which enables us to do far beyond all that we could ask or imagine by the power of change at work with us. In Romans chapter 15, verse 13, "May the God of hope fill you with joy and peace in faith, so that you overflow with hope by the Spirit, by the power of the Holy Spirit. May hopeful changes fill you with all joy and peace in faith, so that you overflow with hope by the power of change." One more. Isaiah chapter 41. "Don't fear, because I'm with you. Don't be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will surely help you. I will hold you with my righteous, strong hand." Don't fear, because change is with you. Don't be afraid, for change will strengthen you, will surely help you, and will righteously sustain you. An evangelist might say that God is the only truth, the light, and the way, because not only is God omnipresent, but only when we embrace God can we be saved. But replacing God with change truly, in my opinion, makes sense, because not only is change, as I said, the only constant, but it is a most challenging aspect of life, and one that only when we embrace it, no matter how difficult, can we save ourselves. So, religious experience is not an attribution of the wonder of the universe to something outside of us, be it a creator or a caretaker or other deity. Religious experience is humanity's attention to the wonders of the universe and the willingness to change and be transformed. It's not a higher power showing us something, but rather us becoming aware of what is already there to witness. For a non-believer, for a secular, you know what I'm trying to say. For a non-believer like me, who rejects dogmatic religion, who does not believe in creationism, and does not use the word God with relation to my own theology, although I respect and defer to those who do. For me, this experience of a mutually deferential relationship with the natural world that is both mindful and radically transformative is something that is equally, if not more, accessible. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it's one of our previous Unitarian Universalist sources, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and openness to the forces which create and uphold life. And it is rewritten in our new Article 2 revision, section C23, as our inspirations. Direct experiences of transcending mystery and wonder are primary sources of Unitarian Universalism, of Unitarian Universalist inspiration. I like inspiration. These experiences open our hearts and renew our spirits and transform our lives. So religious experience can be achieved through culture, art, or anything that elicits emotions that are personal and relatable to the individual. And it can be achieved even through the mundane aspects of everyday life, as long as we are aware of awe, and as long as we embrace change and explore where ultimate meaning can be found, where values lie in the loci of connection to the natural universe, both within and outside of ourselves. I believe any and all of us can have religious experiences at any moment, and in fact, I believe that we can have these experiences in every moment. PUC is experiencing a period of significant change, as is the country, and as is the world. In fact, that's always the case. And as we swim through the precarious tides of life, I humbly offer that in every moment, whether it involves bravery or fear, whether it involves laughter or despondency or anger or love, also recognize and be mindful of the ever-present awe, the transcending, wonderful mystery which will always change us, renewing our collective spirit. And I'll sign the paperclip later for anyone who wants to bid for it. Just kidding. Oh, thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin. If there's so many paper clips, why can I never find one? Now it's time for the offertory. We are grateful for your continued gifts to PUC. If you would like to give online today, you can scan the QR code in the order of service to give with Zelle or PayPal, or we'll take uncut diamonds as well. And now here's another untrue story that never happened. A little sad. On their way to getting married, sadly, a young Unitarian couple is involved in a fatal car accident. To their surprise, they find themselves sitting outside the pearly gates, facing St. Peter to process them into heaven. "We're Unitarians," they told St. Peter, "and since we died on the way to our wedding, would it be possible to get married once we're in heaven? St. Peter says, I don't know. This is the first time anyone's asked that. Let me go find out. And he heads back into a cloud with his holy clipboard. The couple sit and wait for days and weeks. With all this waiting time, they start to squabble and become worried that this marriage might not work out. So now they want to find out if they can get divorced later if they need to. And yet another week passes, and St. Peter finally returns, looking somewhat bedraggled, and says, yes, he informs the couple, you can get married in heaven. Great, says the couple, but we were just wondering, what if things don't work out? Can we also get a divorce in heaven? St. Peter, red-faced with anger, slams his clipboard onto the ground. What's wrong, the frightened couple say. Ah, come on, St. Peter shouts. It took me 6 weeks to find a Unitarian minister up here. Do you think I'll be able to find a lawyer? Please give generously.
Some hearts can conform, fitting the norm, flaunting their love for all to see. I tried to change, thinking how easy life could be. I just kept on failing. I guess that was a sign that there wasn't much hope for this unruly heart of mine. Then you came along, and right or wrong, feelings began to overflow. We had to hide, thinking that no one else could know. And not having you near me was where I drew the line. So I had to conceal this poor unruly heart of mine. And though I don't know how or when, somewhere I learned to see, no matter what this world might say, this heart is the best part of me. So fear is all in the past, fading so fast, I won't stay hidden anymore. I'm who I am, and I think that's worth fighting for. And nobody out there ever gets to define the life I meant to lead with this unruly heart of mine. Nobody out there ever gets to define the life I meant to lead with this unruly heart of
Thank you, Shane. And now after that good music, it's time for us to sing. It's time for the closing hymn, number 18, What Wondrous Love.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul?
If you want to stand, I guess you already did. Join hands if you are so inclined. Exchange zip codes, whatever else works for you. This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all of our differences, beneath all of our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity. May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Shalom. Salam. Namaste. And blessed be. And now our service truly begins. Please sit quietly while we do the prelude. I have some good music coming up from Robin, I believe.